Hello, this is Jurgen Rasmussen speaking. Welcome to the Provocative Hypnosis vlog. This episode is about why you should master the hand drop induction. It's been a all-time favorite of mine for a long time. Several people have asked me about it. So I'd like to give you a little bit of substance, a little bit about a few insider tips about how and when it applies, and of course why you should master it. So the hand drop induction is a pretty fast, rapid induction. And the question I think you want to ask when doing some sort of hypnotic induction is, what am I trying to evoke in my client? What type of state or role or capacity or emotion am I attempting to evoke in my client? So the hand drop is kind of sudden. It's quick. It's surprising. It's a bit emotional and jolting in its nature. And as a consequence, it's ideal for evoking emotion, for evoking strong emotion, for evoking surprising emotions and repressed emotions. So one area where the hand drop induction really shines, in my experience, is with affect bridge regression hypnosis. I remember when I first started doing regression type work, I first did Tad James' timeline therapy model, which for me in the beginning was kind of a 50-50 thing. Sometimes it worked, about half the time it didn't. And one challenge was that a lot of people would ruminate a bit too much. They would get a bit too left-brained in a sense. Now, then I started doing a Dave Ellman formal hypnotic induction, and that worked better. People seemed to go into a more focused, more relaxed state that was more appropriate, and which reduced the ruminations and kind of the left hemispheric uh, orientation. But what really made a difference was when I started doing the hand drop and I really emphasized emotion, really emphasized people activating the emotion that had everything to do with their issue, and doing my best to crank it up strongly and highly. And what better to do that than a induction that is kind of emotional and sudden and quick and jolting? That's congruent with evoking an emotion that has those characteristics. Now, by getting someone really emotional too, you get more of a hypnotic experience. You get less rumination. You really get to activate the neural networks connected to some sort of issue, and it's way more likely that you'll access memory constructs related to the issue without too much conscious interference. So when regression work works, there are a couple of things that usually happen. A, the memory constructs that people evoke are usually a surprise, and they're selected non-consciously. So if you try to consciously have the person select the memory constructs to work with, that's way less successful, in my experience, than if you can guide someone through a process where they find themselves in some memory construct, where it's non-consciously selected. And again, getting behind the radar, getting a strong emotion, getting a strong, quick, sudden emotion makes it a lot more likely that that will happen. Another factor that sometimes is at play is that you always want to have the person unconsciously select the emotion to work with. So even if someone comes in with a phobia, don't necessarily assume that the emotion to work with is fear. It usually is. I mean, in the vast majority of cases. But don't assume that. Keep the door open. So you do the hand drop and you probe for the emotion that has everything to do with their behaviors and their responses. So I've had quite a few cases where I've had phobia clients who've been to NLP coaches and hypnotherapists who have, worked them through the classic NLP phobia cure technique and attempting to help them let go of their fear. And when I have done the work with them, on occasion, other emotions have occurred. For example, deep grief that they had no idea was in any way related to that phobic response. And then you work on the grief, and the phobia is completely cleared. I've had many instances of that. Of course, in terms of regression work, and I did another vlog on this, so I'll be very, very brief, but in terms of hypnosis hijacking, when someone comes into your office, if they suddenly go into a symptom state, if you're connected to them, you can immediately guide their experience and help them resolve it. If you're not part of the experience, then you can kind of make yourself part of that experience. You can hijack their hypnotic or their symptomatic trance, and you need a quick way to do it. So doing the hand drop as a pace and lead is an excellent way because you first get them to voluntarily follow your suggestions, and then you shift into very quickly a more involuntary mode. So if somebody goes into a symptomatic trance right then and there in your office without you having asked for it, instead of calming people down or and then later on attempting to work with it, it's often very time saving to just go straight into it. And if you're not quite part of the trance, then the hand drop is an excellent way to help you get included into the trance. A third category where the hand drop really shines is with psychosomatic issues. I'm talking about chronic pain, low back pain, certain skin disorders, migraine headaches, allergies, asthma, this type of stuff. Now, if you work with these types of symptoms, you know that these types of symptoms very often function as distractors, meaning that the unconscious mind of the person is using the symptom as a distractor so that to prevent the person from feeling feelings and having experiences that they think are dangerous or unacceptable to the conscious mind, the unconscious will very often create a distractor to help ensure that the focus is on the body. So as long as I have a lot of back pain or really intense headaches, I'm completely protected from my unresolved grief or my rage or my fear, that my inner mind has kind of concluded that I'm not quite capable or able or shouldn't feel. So, and this often sounds preposterous to people because all people are aware of is the pain. They just have freakishly strong back pain or intense migraine headaches. That's the only thing that they're aware of. They don't know that there's an emotion behind it driving the show. And if you want to gain access to the forbidden zone, if you will, you very often need a type of induction that's quick, that's sudden, that can kind of help them lower their guard, and so that you can sneak in your shot, to use a martial arts metaphor. So in the case of this, and also for people who have little hypnotic capacity. I remember one guy I worked with who had really strong allergies and intense asthmatic symptoms. If he was in a house where someone was having a chicken, for example, in a frying pan, there was something about that made him have these violent asthmatic attacks, and they would last and last and last and last and last. And was very skeptical, a lot of rumination. So in the beginning of the session, just to kind of see where he was at in terms of absorption and the ability to get absorbed into a suggested experience, I did a book and balloon, and his hands didn't budge. So doing a relaxation type induction or a development type induction or something like that, and then try to get access to the forbidden zone probably wouldn't have worked. It would have just ensured a lot of internal dialogue and a lot of rumination. But by doing a very dramatic and very quick hand drop, I was able to then say, okay, go straight into that emotion that has everything to do with these symptoms. And up came this intense rage that surprised the hell out of him. And then we were able to use that rage as an affect bridge and deal with some memory constructs that came up, and spontaneous, immediate resolution of the asthma and the allergies. So I had quite a few cases like that. Now, I should say, in the end here, that you very often don't need to work with neither content nor structure. If you look at people like John Sarno, the legendary pain doctor, who has helped thousands of people free themselves from chronic pain, that's primarily insight based. It's based upon conversations where he helps them to understand the mechanism, and that in of itself is the cure. And I've discovered that to be the case as well. But sometimes that's not quite sufficient, and if it's not, then having the option of doing hypnosis regression work can help you reach people that you otherwise couldn't have reached. Same with, my orientation these days, my framework with most of the clients that I see is that the symptoms that they have are the result of falling for simple misunderstandings and psychological illusions, and that my job is to help them to see through these illusions. So most of my work is very conversational. It's thought experiments. It's storytelling, and in that regard, the hand drop, really doesn't have much of a place. To some extent, my work is influenced by the three principles approach of Sydney Banks. It's been a huge influence, but there are a few things that I disagree with, so I'm not fully in that camp. But a lot of my sessions are conversational like that, and about helping people see through psychological illusions. And sometimes, with some clients, I can't reach them that way. And in those cases, having this option of doing hypnosis regression work often helps me reach people who I otherwise couldn't reach with my more standard approach. And that is where the hand drop comes in. So I hope this was useful. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to post them wherever you find this on social media. If you haven't subscribed to the Provocative Hypnosis YouTube channel, good reasons to do so. I release videos every week on topics that, if you're into NLP, hypnosis, change work, applied psychology, you will probably find very useful and interesting. So till next time.